Thank you so much for joining me today for another episode of Keeping It Real with America's Supermom. I am just overjoyed to have my next guest here, Brian K Wright. And he just doesn't know how much of a fan I am of his, because I love listening to podcasts. So during my journey of kind of finding my true voice with being a lifestyle designer, which is what another name for a coach, okay? I try to put a different spin on it. I listen to podcasts, and he just has had so many well-known contributors to his platform that, I was just like on a Brian K Wright marathon with the success profiles, thing that he was doing. So I am just overjoyed to have him here today. So before we get into questions that I probably could go on for 2 days, which we got to keep it for 30 minutes, we're going to give him the opportunity to introduce himself.
Wonderful. Oh, right now? Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you for that beautiful lead-in. I'm honored that you're listening to the show and getting a lot of value out of it. So, just a very quick background. I have a background as a teacher, believe it or not. I taught at a 2-year business college in Nebraska for almost 5 years. And when I was going to graduate school, I taught some classes at the University of Nebraska while I was on my graduate assistantship. So I taught public speaking. I also have taught English composition and business math. And you might think, well, what are the commonalities there? Well, at Lincoln School of Commerce, which is the school that I taught at, and it is no longer, it's defunct now, but those are all general ed classes. And that meant that students had to take my class. So I tried to make it as fun as possible, because when you're taking a required class, sometimes it's just not very fun, especially if it's in a subject that you dread. In fact, there were some students who were repeatedly putting off taking the speech class until closer to graduation. I would tell them, this is a required class. You can't keep adding it and dropping it, because eventually you must take the class and pass it to graduate. So I know that it's a fear that a lot of people have. And so I try to make it fun. After that, I ended up, actually during that time, I was also writing resumes for people. So I was helping people find jobs. And when I moved out to Arizona, I ended up in the call center for quite a while. So I was calling businesses, calling residents. Sometimes I was promoted to a supervisory role. There was one place where I was the payroll manager for 3 different locations and 400 employees every week. And there were a couple of times where I was promoted to the trainer. In fact, those positions were created specifically for me when they figured out that I had a much better idea of what I was doing than most of the people on the floor. And so they said, you have to teach other people how you're doing this. And so teaching has always been part of me. And so that made it really easy eventually to transition into hosting a personal development and business oriented radio show called Success Profiles Radio. And so my goal is to inspire, educate, and motivate people to be the best versions of themselves. I bring guests on who can help us do that in whatever area of expertise they have. Yesterday, I interviewed Cody Sperber, who helps people learn how to invest in real estate. So that was a fun show. Yeah.
So, one of the things that just really kind of stands out to me is you being a connector, collaborator. I was going over some of like your Facebook photos and just the impact that you're able to do with collaborating. So right now, many people, as they are trying to navigate through this global pandemic of what was normal for them or how they were in a certain position, now they have to reinvent themselves. What advice would you give them about collaborating?
There's definitely power in having more than just yourself doing something. Usually, you need things that other people have and vice versa. And I think sometimes people undervalue themselves. They think, oh, I don't have anything to offer. Don't speak that out loud to yourself, because whatever you speak out loud to yourself becomes real. If you believe in the law of attraction, if you believe in the secret, so speak well of yourself. In fact, it's so interesting when you speak goodness to yourself and speak goodness about yourself in a mirror, and just legitimately tell yourself, I am confident, I am wealthy, I am worthy, I am good looking, I am worthy of being loved. And you start to believe that after a while, it becomes true. And that just permeates to everything that you're doing in life. So to answer the question about collaboration, I learned pretty early during the pandemic that people were consuming content even more now than ever before. which fed perfectly into the hand of cards that I've been dealt. I create radio shows, podcasts. I create magazines. I do a monthly magazine. It's called Success Profiles Magazine. And it's digital, but I print them out once in a very great while for networking events and stuff. In fact, I printed this one out because my goal was to present this to Kevin Harrington at an event that he was going to be speaking at. So I went to the event and met him in person and gave this to him, and he held this up on stage while he was speaking. So that was really, really cool. But if you have something that other people want, it makes life a lot easier. And sometimes if the thing that you want, for example, is to be in a magazine or to be on a show or to speak on a stage, and you're not getting what you want, then create your own. Create your own and invite people to play in your sandbox. That puts you in an authoritative position.
I love that.
So that's very good.
And I love the fact that, you printed it out. You're saying it's digital, you printed it out and gave it to them. So talk to us about how you can leverage even things that look small, that they can have a big impact. Something like that was just like, that was great. Okay, good thinking. So.
This was so amazing because like I said, I've printed not every issue, but a few issues I have. Especially when my guest is someone that I think a lot of people would like to read more about. What I do is I cross-promote myself. If you listen to my radio show, you hear me talk about, some of my commercials are centered around the fact that I help people write their books. I also have an ad for my ghostwriting and book coaching services in my magazine. I also have ads for my radio show in my magazine. So I'm constantly cross-promoting across all my platforms. If you heard me on my show first, you may not know that I ghostwrite books. If you know that I ghostwrite books, you may not know that I do a magazine. If you know that I do a magazine and you see my ads for the other two, now you know that I do all three. So 1 + 1 + 1 doesn't equal 3. It equals 4, 5, or 6 because it's all exponential growth. So that's really, really great. When you have your own platform and you create multiple jumping points like that, you have a chance to synergize. In fact, I'll tell you, one time I was invited by a friend of mine who was visiting Phoenix to come meet him at a coffee shop. And he brought a friend who was local who I did not know. The three of us were talking. I brought one of my magazines because it's a great conversation starter, right? So while I was talking to my friend, this other guy was thumbing through the magazine and he got to a page with one of my ads on and he says, "You ghostwrite books?" I said, "Yeah." Are you looking to write a book? "Yeah." "Do you want to do it yourself or do you need help?" "I need help." "Let's meet back here in 3 days and talk about that, just you and me." We did, and he became a client. So because I did this, because I printed this out, because I advertised my own services in my own magazine and showed it to someone, he latched onto it. I did not push. He saw it and go, "Oh my God, you do this?" I said, "Yes, I do. We have to talk." So it has been a source of business for me.
I love that. And so, my next question is, I love how, it's media oriented. How did you, if you have these different areas that you are well versed in, keep that clarity? Because, some people are chasing after this, it's like, oh, well, I want to do this and I want to do that. So you do have different areas that serve different people. So how do you keep it all together?
Very carefully. Sometimes I wish there were 5 of me, but I don't know if the world could handle 5 of me. I don't know. I think I'm at the point where I do need more of a team. I do source out my graphic design work because I don't have skills. In fact, it's so funny. I went on to Canva because a friend of mine said, "Oh, you can design your own magazine cover on Canva for free." Okay, so I tried it, and after an hour, I wrestled with it. I was having such a hard time. I posted my version of the front cover. And I was proud of it for about 2 minutes. And then the world let me know just how unamazing it was. It was not amazing at all. In fact, one guy said the 90s called, they want their fonts back. I took it down out of sheer embarrassment. But the cool thing happened next. One of my Facebook friends who I had never chatted with before, right, and who has graphic design skills, said, "Here, use this." It was this. I'm like, "This is amazing. How much do I owe you?" "Don't worry about it." I'm like, no. How much do I owe you? This is amazing. You've rescued me. He says, "Don't worry about it. I plan on asking you about book writing later." And a few months down the line, he basically asked me a whole bunch of questions. And, I didn't charge him for the call. He did this for me. So of course I talked to him, and I don't know what he ever did with it, but I answered his questions and I got a magazine cover. And so this is the prototype. And the graphic designer that I use now, he couldn't continue because he says, I'm running my business. I don't have time to do your cover every month, but I wanted to give this to you just because you needed help. Yes, I did. Thank you. Yeah. So my graphic designer does this. He substitutes the picture and sometimes has a different background, but this is basically the layout. And so there's a consistency to it. So
I love that. And, so for somebody who's like, they're overthinking, analyzing, putting it out there, talk to them about, putting it out there, because if you didn't take that step, you wouldn't have got that opportunity.
Done is better than perfect. Are there mistakes in this? A few. But and now that I'm working on issue number 38. It's over 3 years since I've been starting this. This was December 2017. Wow. Would I change some things in this issue? But it's done. It's done, and it started something. So that's been pretty cool. And the 9-year anniversary for my radio show is this coming Monday. So be consistent. That's the key. You can't just do it a couple times and wonder where everyone is. Why are you not flocking to me?
Right.
The Field of Dreams thing is false. False. If you build it, they do not necessarily come. They have to find you.
Right.
If you build the Field of Dreams and I don't know you're in Eastern Iowa, I will never find you in a million years.
So true. Yeah. And, so talk to us about the tenacity that we have to have with, I'm sure you've had some heavy hitter guests on your radio show, but the whole thing about, you said it's been 9 years, right? Mm-hmm. And so, putting that offer out there and then them not hearing it or, having that stamina, even though you don't get them on the first time or things like that. So for somebody who is watching that they have a podcast or whatever platform that they're using and the people aren't dropping into it immediately, what advice would you give them about that?
Well, first of all, ask, because in fact, I'm listening to the audiobook for The Aladdin Factor by Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield. It's one of my favorite books. And you can listen to the audio on YouTube for free. Yeah, like 4.5 hours long. And so I listen to probably 20 or 30 minutes every day. And so I can get through it in less than 2 weeks. It's great. But ask. You don't get if you don't ask. That's important. Collect testimonials from people who you've had a chance to work with. People who have been on my show that are recognizable, I always ask them during the break. And my show is a live show. And so I have commercial breaks every quarter hour. And I'll usually ask them, are you having a good time? Oh, this is great. This is a blast. You're so good at this. And then at the end, I'll ask them, since you said that you thought I was so good at this and you enjoyed your experience, would you be willing to give me a testimonial about your experience? And some do and some don't. But I collect all of those on my website, briankwright.com. And I know people like Jack Canfield and Darren Hardy came on my show because they saw that I interviewed a bunch of their friends. In fact, Jack Canfield said during the show, you've interviewed a bunch of my friends. And I very confidently said, yes, I have.
I love
it's true. It's true. And usually people like that have a team in front of them. I didn't get to talk with either one of them before they appeared on my show. I was talking with their team. And now I work with a lot of PR firms who say, I have a great guest. Would you consider having so-and-so? In fact, the very first time a PR firm approached me, they said, I work with Bob Berg. Would you consider having him on your show? The Go Giver, Endless Referral. Yes.
We've actually been in a book together. I haven't met him yet. So,
I've interviewed him twice. He is phenomenal. He was on my bucket list. I bought his book, Endless Referrals, back in the 90s. So I knew who he was when he was being pitched to me. I said, yes, please. How quickly can we do this?
I know that's right. Now, so now this is another thing. So you have these people that are like, oh, this is somebody I've been always wanting to meet. So how do you keep your cool with that?
Oh, I'll tell you what. There have been times where I've wanted to be fanboy so bad. I think I was a little bit like that with Darren Hardy a little bit, but I've learned to calm the jets a little bit. But, it's so funny. You just have to own it because they put their pants on just like you do, one leg at a time. They're not any more special than I am. They just figured out how to do something before I did. They figured it out faster than I did. And that's
I love that.
And so that way there's no judgment. You shouldn't judge yourself. Do not compare your chapter 2 with someone else's chapter 20, because you're not being kind to yourself when you do that.
I love that. Yeah. And I mean, I think having that owning it aspect, like what you said, because, you know, there are insights that they can give you. And if you're so like starstruck, you know, you can lose an opportunity to really get some insight that can help you move forward in your life.
Yeah. In fact, my guest that I had on my show yesterday, Cody Sperber, I've been on his email list for a couple of years. And I told him that during break. I said, when I was presented with the opportunity to interview you, I said yes immediately, because I knew who you were. I've been on your email list for a couple of years, and he lives in Phoenix just like I do. And he's like, oh, well, that's really wonderful. And during another break, he said, you're really good at this. You've prepared. I said, I know who you are. I've been on your list. And I watched a bunch of your YouTube videos the day before the show. He says, it totally shows. And then I hit him up for a testimonial, which he has not yet given to me, but I'm confident that he will, because we just did the show yesterday. Yeah. Yeah.
And I love that. And so talk to us about, you know, prepping for guests, because some people are like, oh, you know, I'm going to have such and such on it. So they're so busy promoting the person that they don't really do the preparation for the actual show. So talk to us about that.
Back in the day, I made it a point to read the guest's book before the show. I don't have time to do that anymore. So what I do is, if I find it on Amazon, I will scroll through the table of contents in the preview, and I will generate my questions based on the table of contents. What I will also do is look for evidence that they've been interviewed by other people to see what kinds of questions they're used to answering, to get a sense of what they sound like, how they handle themselves during an interview. And if it's someone who's been interviewed a lot, I'm not worried about that. And sometimes the show I'm listening to is pretty good, and sometimes snore. I'm here for the guest and not the host, right? So I just try to get a sense of what they're used to being asked, and then I'll try and put a different spin on some of those questions. Or I'll ask the question that did not get asked but should have been asked.
I love that, because you know, that's the thing, the preparation, sometimes people forget. They get so enamored into some of these guests or whatever, and you know, you have to be prepared, because you just never know what could happen, you know, before, after, or anything. And that's part of asking testimonials. Now that's good. I'm gonna be asking you when we get done.
Okay. Sounds great. And I'll tell you what, I am that guy who has a Word document with a ton of questions. So I work from that. I don't ask all the questions. I don't have time to ask all the questions. And if the conversation's going in a particular direction, I will skip questions and go to something I was planning on asking later. And while they're talking, I'll just cut and copy and paste, so that I don't ask the same. One time I asked the same question twice. That was embarrassing. He's like, didn't we answer this question already? I'm like, you know what? Yeah, you did. I'm sorry. But I think that's only happened once. I think that's happened only one time.
Hey, that was enough of an experience, right? That you didn't have to repeat that again.
Yeah. And my lesson in being over prepared. One time I had a guest who was introduced to me by someone who's a friend of mine. I did not know this lady, and she didn't know me. Toward the end of the show, I said, so all great leaders are also readers. So what has been the most influential book you've read? And she said, I don't read. Shut your dirty mouth. What? I didn't say that, but I mean, it caught me for a split second. I'm like, okay, pivot. What next? This happened during my first year.
Yeah.
And so that taught me, okay, Brian, you must have way more questions than you think you'll need in case someone does that to you again. Because I had about 3 or 4 minutes left in the show, and that was, I think, my next to last question. So I finally said, any final thoughts?
You learned to roll with the punches. That's for sure. But I mean, this is so true. I mean, I think that also is the thing with active listening, because sometimes we can be over prepared. We just assume that they're going to do like everybody else. And then it's like, you kind of don't know what to say.
Yeah. And the other thing I love about having a live show where I have commercial breaks, if I have a guest who's giving super short answers, I mean, maybe they're used to being on TV where they're used to just talking in sound bites, but this is an hour-long show. So it's a longer form show. One time I had a guest who was giving me really short answers, and I said during the break, "It is okay if you elaborate a little bit more on your answers." Oh, thank you. Okay, I have more freedom. Okay, good. Yes, you do. Thank you for telling me that. Yeah.
After you use 7 of your questions up, right?
Yeah. And I've got like 30. I usually plan on asking about 20, but I didn't want to have 30 questions and run out because my show's 60 minutes. I mean, I only have basically 48 minutes worth of talk time.
Right. Right.
And if I get through 30 questions in 48 minutes, we're cooking. I'm like, I don't want to cook that fast.
Exactly. Exactly. I love it. And that's true. So, we both are affiliated with Jordan Adler, right?
Yeah.
Okay. With I'm with Send Out Cards and you're with Send Out Cards. So about relationship marketing. So that's one of the things that really kind of helps me keep it straight. So talk to us about the importance of building relationships as you've seen with your 9 years with your radio show and some of the other ventures that you do, how important it is with relationships.
It's very important. I'm actually not in Send Out Cards. I actually have received several cards.
Oh, okay.
And so I know what that's like, and they're beautiful, beautiful cards, but relationship building is so, so important because sometimes if I know somebody who's well connected, I might say, do you know somebody that I can have on as a guest in the near future? Or sometimes people will say, you know what, you need to interview so-and-so. In fact, Greg Reed's going to be on my show for the 3rd time this coming week. And he has introduced me to people who have become guests on my show. Wow. So that's important. It's really important. And what's also pretty cool is some of my guests have become clients of mine and they've referred people.
Yeah.
So that's been pretty cool.
Yeah, that's always a good thing, is people kind of forget that, oh, I've got this guest on, and it is about nurturing and building that because you never know. They may not have a referral immediately.
Yeah.
But what happens if they have a book coming out? Then it's like, oh, they're trying to scramble and get everybody they know on board. So you never know.
And it's not always about trying to get business from that person every time you chat them up. Sometimes, a lot of times it's legitimately, how are you? I've missed you. How have you been? What's going on in your life? And that's it. I don't ask for business. I don't ask for a referral. I'm just trying to build a friendship. And so I don't want to be that guy that only reaches out to you when I need something. That's gross.
Yeah, I feel you on that. So what advice would you give everybody about, you've been able to pivot and do all these things in spite of the pandemic? You have been able to do a lot. So for people who are there and they're just like, man, what do you forecast for 2021 and how did you have that mindset from what we experienced in 2020?
Yeah, I think just helping, loving, and serving people is really where it starts. Gratitude is very, very important. I'm fortunate that I have some active projects that I'm working on right now, and I've got some people in my pipeline to talk to for future projects. But one thing that I'm pivoting toward is recurring projects. Not only do I produce my magazine, I also produce magazines for clients, both one-off magazines and recurring magazines, like every quarter for their organization. And so I would love to have more clients where I'm helping them produce a magazine every quarter for their organization. That provides some stability, more stability for me. And it also serves them in a way that they can reach out to their base on a very, very regular basis.
That is really a good idea. I hadn't even considered that. That's awesome.
I mean, think about Send Out Cards. The whole premise behind that is that you are reaching out to them and staying top of mind. But if I'm producing a quarterly magazine for somebody, in fact, there's one client that I've done this for 6 times now, and another client that I'm onboarding very, very soon who wants a quarterly magazine for her school. That's just a way to reach out to the community and their customers and their clients and their students and their families on a very regular basis. And then people think, oh, a magazine, how can I be in the magazine? How can I be involved? How can I get my word out? So it's a platform that will help them build their business too. It's not just about me getting business and having something else to do. It's about helping other people build their presence in their market. And that's what this magazine does.
So true.
I mean, you contributed to an issue of this magazine that's coming out probably in the next couple of weeks. I'm waiting for my graphic designer to give me the first draft because I haven't seen a first draft yet, and this needs to be out in 2 weeks. It will be. I claim it. It will be.
All right. Hey,
it's
we
never
gotta
been
get
late.
her done. Get her done. Yeah.
It's never been late. And anyone that does want to contribute to Success Profiles magazine, it's a business and personal development magazine. And Brian at Brian K Wright is my email. And you can reach out to me about whether the thing that you're doing is a good fit. I'd be happy to accept new contributors anytime. I'm always looking for great content.
I love that. And so what is I'm going to tell you my big thing for 2021.
Yeah.
And people think I'm crazy, but I want to collaborate with Oprah Winfrey and Jimmy Fallon this year. So if you know anybody, okay. But what is your big thing? And I have to say this everywhere because you don't know who knows somebody, right?
Yeah.
So for 2021, what is your big goal?
Wow. Well, like I had mentioned, doing the quarterly magazines for other clients, I'd like to have 10 of those.
Okay.
And that would, of course, force me to source stuff out and build a team, which is great. That'll help me grow my business.
Awesome. I love that because, we got to think big. I'm telling you, if we don't do it, no one will. Right. So talk to us as we conclude about some of the things that you have to do in your daily routine in order to maintain what it is that you do every day. So your positivity, your ability to kind of be creative. I mean, to think of a magazine for a school to say, oh, here's our magazine, when they have students that want to come and enroll in their school. So, just that creativity. How do you manage to keep that, going? What are some things you do regularly?
One thing that I do is I listen to positive affirmations and wealth information affirmations on YouTube. And there are YouTube videos where the same affirmations are looped over and over again for a couple of hours or more. You do that for 20 or 30 minutes a day and you really listen, it becomes part of you. In fact, there's a Bob Proctor video out there, and this very simple 6-second or so affirmation is looped probably 800 times in 2 hours. And it says, I'm so happy and grateful now that money comes to me in increasing quantities through multiple sources on a continuous basis. I'm so happy and grateful now that money comes to me in increasing quantities through multiple sources on a continuous basis. You say that over and over again, listen to that over and over again for half an hour. You start to believe it after a while.
That is so good.
Yeah.
That repetition. I love that, and, taking action, being around the right kind of people,
Absolutely.
So during your journey, I'm sure, for 9 years, and then just the vision to even start your business, there are people that just don't see that. So for somebody who has a vision that other people can identify with, what were the top things that you had to do in order to continue to bring that dream to life?
Yeah, you have to level up your network. The people who got you where you are may not be the same people who need to get you where you want to go. In fact, Brian Tracy has a very interesting example when he was business consulting, and I don't know if he does a lot of that now. He's in his 80s now. But I heard him tell a story about this one company that he consulted with, and he was talking to them about, where are you now? Where do you want to be? What is your 5-year vision, your 10-year vision? When you have reached your ultimate goal, what does your business look like? And then he asked, out of all the people that are still working for you, who's with you when you reach the summit? And they wrote a list. And then he said, who's not with you anymore at that point? And the executives made a list. And then he said, why are they still here now?
I love that. That's good.
So there is a weaning period, a pruning period that I suppose has to happen, because if there is a specific place in your business or in your life you want to go, there are some people who are currently in your life who are able to get you there and some who probably aren't. So you'll need to minimize your exposure to some of those people, and some of those people might be people that you love and care about a lot. And so you don't talk about your big dreams and goals with those people, because God gave the vision to you and not to them. I have a philosophy that it is not my job to explain my journey to someone who's not committed to understanding it. I don't.
I love that. That is so good.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that's one of the things that kind of gets us with burnout because we know our value, but then we're trying to serve people that don't appreciate our value or
right.
understand it. And so we're running behind them. Oh, but you're getting this, you're getting that. And it's like, you know what? Leave those people alone. Those are
Mhm.
not your people.
They're not your people. No, no. And you will when the right people come into your life, you will know it.
That's so true. Yeah. Like the person that helped you with that magazine cover, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And I don't know what he's doing now. I
mhm.
don't know, but I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
And so the same person who designed the first issue, that did the layout, I'm still working with him today.
That's such a blessing. Yeah.
It is.
So it's
And I've
awesome.
got I've got two other designers that are doing their projects. So I do have three graphic designers on my team. But I am looking to expand my team just beyond graphic design. So that's a fun journey.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, you're willing to learn, so that's really the most important part.
Mhm.
And so just talk to us in conclusion. Look, I can be on here all day.
Yeah.
How do you manage to be able to accept criticism, or how do you handle that? Because you've got your radio show, you've got
Mhm.
prominent people that you're in the face of, and so how do you handle that criticism?
It's interesting. Sometimes when that happens, there's an urge to
Mhm.
defend myself, but I just listen and I say, I receive that. Thank you very much. I'm not even really required to respond to it.
I like that.
I
Yeah.
mean, if the criticism is coming from someone who's sharing it from a space of love and is someone who is capable of helping me, I receive that and I ask, what can I do next? If it's coming from someone who is in the peanut section of the stadium and I don't know who they are and they don't know who I am and they're just trying to throw shade, thank you for your feedback. Next.
Mm. I love that. That's good. I mean,
Yeah.
that's an important thing to bring up because, we've got a lot of people that are a lot more emotional and sensitive right now because of what we just experienced.
Right.
We're all out of sorts. So I
Yeah.
love that approach because it definitely makes sense. We sometimes just accept what somebody says as if it's factual, but it's still at
Mm.
the end of the day somebody's opinion.
Right. You have
Hmm.
to assess where that criticism is coming from. If that
Love
criticism is coming from your coach who's paying you, you probably should listen to what that person's telling you. Or not you're
right.
paying. The coach
Right.
that you're paying.
Right.
Yeah.
So true. So
Yeah.
true. And I mean, we have blind spots sometimes. So I love the fact, you got to know where to listen and where
Yep.
not to listen. So that's great.
Exactly.
Thanks. So
Yeah.
I guess, I'm gonna have to give you your time back because I know that, if you've got lots that you could be doing. So in conclusion, what final words would you like to share with the audience?
Don't you dare play small. The world needs you. The
Love
world
that.
needs you. The world needs your gifts. The world needs who you are. If you
Hmm.
think that you're less than, stop it. You are enough right where you're at. Does that mean that there's not room for growth? No, no, there's room for growth always, but you are enough.
Love that. I have on a bracelet. I don't know if you can see it. It says, I am enough.
There you are.
So, yeah.
I know that's right.
Yeah. So, well, this has just been so much fun. And I really appreciated all the nuggets and insights that you've shared with the audience. And I encourage you guys to reach out to Brian.
Yeah.
He is just doing phenomenal things. And just scroll on his website,
Yeah.
look over his Facebook page. You'll see some of the people that he has had the pleasure of connecting with. And
Yeah.
he's still connecting with, right?
Yeah.
So, the time is now to be able to think about where you want to be this year. If you want to level up the
Yeah.
people that you're around, if you're a writer, you have content that you could provide for his magazine, please feel free to reach out to him.
Yeah.
So
And mention
again,
mention that
uh-huh.
yeah, you saw me here so that if you do send me a friend request, you said, I saw you on the Shell Show, I'll accept you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So that collaboration, it really helps you. So I again just want to say thank you so much for making my day special today.
Oh, you're
Got a chance
welcome.
to spend time with you. And thank you all for watching. And please ask questions. We may not answer them right now live, but If you have any questions, you have any insights that you would like to get a little direction from Brian, feel free to put them in the comments and we will make sure that he gets them. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now.
Bye.